Hello, hello, everyone. Happy Motivational Monday. My name is Kira. I am your host, and I am officially back from last week's hostile takeover where Candace and Philip filled in for me while I was traveling. I'm so excited to have you here for men's well-being, and today's session is all about how to stay accountable as a man. So we've got one of our guides, Percy, who you have never heard from before, at least in our group setting format. And I'm so excited to bring him here. He's a father, he's a husband, he works, he travels, he does a lot of things. And on top of that, he is one of our life guides. Um, and I wanted to talk about the opening song for a second because I found the song. I'm not a country song person at all, not my vibe, but the lyrics really matched what today's conversation and what I'm opening about. So the song says, "Man up doesn't mean to go it alone. It means giving it up and letting it go." Um, you can't fight until you can't breathe. You've got to, you man up doesn't mean bury it inside. It means learning to let it go, and you can't carry it all. So it starts with this man showing up to a bar, ordering a drink, and the bartender being like, "Yo, are you okay? You don't seem okay. You need to let some of this go." So with that, it ties in perfectly to some of the statistics regarding men's well-being and why today's conversation matters. So, men's well being, there is a significant disparity with men's well being. Men experience high rates of stress and chronic illness, but they're significantly less likely to seek preventative care or mental health treatment. Men are nearly four times more likely to die by suicide than women. They account for nearly 80% of all suicide deaths in the United States. Around 40% of men will never talk to anyone about their mental health, and men are two to three times more likely than women to misuse drugs or develop an alcohol use disorder. So, I wanted to share all of those statistics that are leading into today's conversation, specifically about accountability, because what you'll hear from Percy is that he's got some really great accountability structures in his life that help him become the man that he desires to be, not only for himself, but for his kids, for his family, for his wife, for the work that he does as well. So, like I said, Percy's one of our guides, and his superpower is that he empowers others to overcome challenges and achieve their full potential by sharing insights from his own diverse experiences in career, family, and personal growth. So, I'm going to drop his link in the chat for you all. So, if you're interested in seeing what Percy is all about, you'll be able to do so. But Percy, we are so excited to have you here. Thank you for joining us for today's conversation. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, your journey to accountability, and how you've learned that yourself as a man?
Oh, yes, I definitely can. Thanks for the introduction, Kira. Hello, everybody. Again, Kira kind of mentioned it, but my name is Percy Caldwell. I'm 37, based out of Atlanta, Georgia. I've got a beautiful wife and two kids, a 4-year-old son, Noah, 3-year-old daughter, Naomi. A little bit about me as a man, when we're first born into this earth as a kid, a child, we know nothing about being an adult, let alone as a boy being a man. But thankfully for me, I had both of my parents in the picture, let alone I had a great father and a father figure. So up until age 18, I knew nothing about being a man except for kind of what he told me. And he helped instill values in me. And he really just led by example. So I was fortunate enough to have that. But we all know sometimes that might not be enough. So had a good example, great father figure up until 18. I went off to college. Your parents can only do but so much. At the end of the day, it relies on you as a man, as a human, to buckle up, get things done, especially when you go off on your own. You're not under your parents' umbrella. You're not under their constant watch, them telling you what to do. You have to make those decisions for yourself. So going out to college was my first time. I won't say really I had ever had to struggle because I grew up upper middle class. My parents had good jobs. I'm an only child. I didn't have everything I wanted because I was spoiled to a certain extent, but I had everything I needed. I got to travel a lot. I lived a very good life, especially for a young African American male. So I was very fortunate and blessed. But then when I got to college, I kind of had just been really living life on cruise control, and I wasn't going to class. I wasn't doing things I was supposed to do because I wasn't under my parents' umbrella. And I realized, like, hey, that was my first time looking in the mirror and holding myself accountable. Say, hey, Percy, you want to control your own destiny. This is what you want. Mom and daddy aren't here to wake you up to go to class. They're not here to cook your meals. They're not here to do that. So that was kind of my first time really having to look myself in the mirror and hold myself accountable for things that weren't going right. Because honestly, for the first time in my life, I won't say everything was perfect, up until age 18. But that was the first time to where I felt like I was disappointed not only my parents and myself. So that moment on kind of helped me refocus, shift gear, and keep my foot in the gas. And yes, life presents us different hurdles and speed bumps. And so we have different things to come across. But for the most part, I stay in that straight and narrow. And I try to hold myself as well as my others accountable as much as possible, because at the end of the day, if we're not holding ourselves accountable, we're kind of really just being bystanders in life. We're just not controlling our own destiny. And again, I want to control my own destiny regardless of, I'm a firm believer, regardless of whoever's in power in our country, whatever this, that, and the third, we control our own destiny. And so I know what I wanted in my life. And that's when I say, hey, Percy, you need to do this, stick to it. We're going to hold yourself accountable. And I told my people around me, hey, call me out when I'm not doing what I need to do. And that's kind of worked for me a lot so far.
Thank you so much for sharing. I feel like it sounds like a lot of empowerment. I feel like sometimes people see that they're not on the path that they want to be and they get very discouraged. And it's so nice to hear that accountability has built in empowerment for you because it's true. We have so much control over our world. Obviously, there's a lot that's out of our control, but in our
Mhm.
own little microcosm, a lot of things are in our control. And I think it was really nice hearing you say, not only do you have people who hold you accountable for yourself and where you want to go, you also have people that you look to support you and you support them back. And I think that's a really important part of it, especially as we see that men haven't necessarily been taught in today's day and age to have support systems or build community or be vulnerable about where they're at or even to be called out when they might not be on the right path. So you have a community that you tap into multiple times a week for accountability, support, and growth. Can you tell us a little bit more about that and how you've noticed that you and others have grown from it?
Yes, for sure. So what Kira was mentioning is that I have a group. It's a basketball based group, but we're really a men's accountability group. So what that entails is every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 5:15 in the morning. It's pretty early too. I didn't go this morning because my wife had to leave early for work. But at 5:15 in the morning is a group. It's about 70 on the email chain, but each Monday, Wednesday, and Friday is 18 to 30 of us who we meet up at one of the local churches or the local Christian school, play basketball. But for 15 minutes, we do a 15-minute devotional. And what that consists of is we'll read a Bible verse, talk about scriptures. Sometimes we might not even, read a Bible verse. We might just talk about what's going on in our lives. And, we're out there playing basketball, but we realize that we're all going through things, especially as men. Kira, you mentioned it earlier in your introduction that men, we kind of keep things bottled up. That's why the suicide rate is so high. Men, I feel like as men, if we show our emotions sometimes, not only does society look at it as a weakness, but we might look at it as a weakness too. So this accountability group, it helps me specifically realize that, hey, person, I'm not going through this by myself. Four of my neighbors in my neighborhood are part of this group as well too. And there are times when somebody's had a rough day, they'll come pour their heart out, might end in tears, might end in laughter, might end in both. But we realize that, hey, we're all in this together. We're not alone. And as men, I think it's very, very, very important that we not only wear our emotions on our sleeve, but don't keep things bottled up. Because whether you're a man or a woman, but especially as a man, you keep things bottled up for so long, it's like a volcano. It ain't an eruption. That eruption might be you lashing out at your spouse, at your friend, your kids, you just losing your mind, or just doing something crazy. Who knows? But I think it's very, very important for us to not only speak our mind, but understand that, hey, we're not alone in this. So for me, I know whatever I'm going through, I've got this men's accountability group that's every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. But at the same time, I've got three of my friends, been best friends since preschool. We talk every day. I've got 12 of us that graduated high school together. We talk every day. It's a lot of us out there. So I know if I'm ever going through anything, not only do I have, my wife or my dad or mom, I've got my friends who are the same age as me and more likely experiencing more similar things as I am than those others around me. So it helps me tremendously. Honestly, it's something I look forward to. I was a little upset I couldn't make this morning because I was looking forward to playing basketball and catching up with my buddies. But it's something I can look forward to. And I know if I'm having a rough day or night or week, that helps me kind of shift focus, reset, and get back in the mode I need to be in.
It reminds me of something that Esther Perel says, and she's a relationship coach in general for all levels of relationships. And she says, I love what you said specifically about needing to work through some of these things before it all
Mhm.
bottles up in you and it becomes an eruption on your spouse or your kids, because a lot of people unfortunately have this idea that my partner or my immediate family is my entire support system. And you can't expect a partner or maybe a sibling to be your lover, your therapist, your sports buddy, your fashion icon, just so many different things. You can't expect someone to fill all of those roles all the time. And it's one of the reasons why having so many diverse levels of support are so important. And I feel like the fact that you have so many different groups that support you is so amazing because you don't always hear that. Even in women, we don't always have that either. So I feel like you're just such a good pillar and such a good example of what that looks like. And I have a question because I feel like this is really important because you do portray a very strong-willed, a very confident, a very grounded man. But I'm curious where you think you'd be without these people in your life and without these support systems.
Oh, I'd have no idea where I'd be, but I know I wouldn't be where I am today. I know that for a fact because life presents various challenges, and my wife used to get on me, and she kind of realized that okay, like he has a good mentality, but she would say, "Hey, you need to be more realistic. You're too optimistic." And I'm like, "How am I too optimistic?" Like, I realize I try to see the good in things, and I understand that everything isn't going to be all shiny and roses and sunshine and whatnot. But at the end of the day, I always tell myself, regardless, no matter what I'm going through. There's a bunch of other people going through the same thing, but there's hundreds of millions of more, if not more than that, going through worse than what I'm going through. Who would die to be in my shoes? So, kind of going back to your question, curious. I know that when I have a tough day, I might, me and my buddies might group chat. We might vent to each other. We might get on the video games with each other and talk about what's going on. Might have a group call, whatever it may be. But I know whenever I have those rough moments, because you can't go, like you said, you can't rely on your spouse for everything. I think it's being married. Yes, your spouse is your go-to, and as a man, the most important decision you will make is who your spouse is going to be. But in the same time, it's good to have balance. It's good for your spouse to go out with her friends. It's good for you to go out with your friends. At the same time, it's good for you to talk about what you're going through in life with your friends and vice versa. And so I know for me, if I didn't have my boys here, it would be tough. I know one of the toughest things I've had to endure. I'm the only child, as I mentioned earlier. It was about 7 or 8 years ago. I remember I was it's ironically how this works too. So I travel for work pretty often. The only work trip my mom ever went on me with. She was with me on this trip. We're literally in the heart and square in the middle of Times Square in New York. Walking around, I got no some meetings. We're walking around in the middle of Times Square. I get a call from my dad. Hey son, I got stage 4 cancer. I hear stage 4. I'm like, oh no. I get on Google. I start crying. The only person who could have come for me at that time was my mother, and she was there. And so I know that's probably been the biggest emotional roller coaster for me, especially when I first found out. But I was able to talk to my boys who went through the same thing, whose parents defeated cancer and whose parents succumbed to it. And so I was able to talk to them and understand how they were able to cope for it. And it helped me out tremendously. Obviously, still have my moments and have my moments. But that initially, I know that first phase, because I was living in California and my dad was in North Carolina. So I felt guilty, like, hey, I'm my only child. I need to go back, take care of my dad. I need to do that in the third. But having that support system helped me tremendously, being able to, be there from afar. And even more so, one of them, as I mentioned earlier, I have 3 best friends since preschool. One of those best friends still lives down the street from my dad, takes my dad his appointments when needed, picks him up, do things like that. So it's more than just, me being able to call somebody. I know if my dad needs something, I know I've got some of my homeboys and his friends that he can rely on as well too.
That is such a powerful story. I hope your dad is doing well. I hope that you all are doing well as well. But it's so nice to hear that it's more than just having emotional support, too. Physical
Mhm.
support is incredibly important. And I think it also goes, not a lot of people can say that they have a childhood group that they still talk to from kindergarten. Not a lot of people can say that they have that from high school, too. But those can be foundational relationships where your parents also watch them grow up. And it is really interesting in adulthood. Oh my gosh, it's making me emotional that our roles do change. We are the ones who are taken care of by our parents, and then at some point we take care of our parents too. And it
Yep.
really, really, really does take a village to make that happen. So thank you so much for that story. Um, I'm curious. You and I talked a little bit about your own personal goals and your own
Mhm.
accountability. How do you set your goals? And then what systems do you personally use to stay accountable?
Good question. So, No, we all like to do New Year's resolutions. Towards the end of the year, we start thinking about, hey, our New Year's resolutions. Excuse me. Some of us stick to them. Some of them might last a week or two. It's how it works. Human brain works. But I know myself, and I know how I am. So my wife and I, we have constant discussions about our goals, whether it's financial, spiritual, whatever it may be. But I like to at least start with a 3 month goal. So I set a 3 month goal, and when I set those goals, I make sure they're easily attainable. Number one, they're realistic goals. So they have to be realistic. And then the way I am, and I feel like a lot of humans are this way, I'm visual. So the more I see it, the more I'll be willing to act on it. So for me, I like to have those goals, my screensavers, and I'll mark them off as they go along. So I literally go in the notes app, have a list of goals. As I complete them, check mark them off, and screenshot a new screenshot. That's my new screensaver. So seeing those goals all the time, and then sometimes I'll even have, I'm in my office right now, I have a flashcard beside my computer with my goals on it. And so just having that there visible and seeing that helps me hold myself accountable because I could be, done with meetings. I work from home when I'm not traveling. You sitting around twiddling my thumbs, and I say, hey, okay, these are my goals, Percy. You said you wanted to do this, that, and the third. Why are you sitting around doing nothing? Okay, get up off my butt. What can I do to help attain that goal as well as these other goals too? So for me, just having it visible there helps remind me. In addition to that, I'm an open book. Like I'm very open. I talk a lot. My wife said I talk too much sometimes, but that's why I'm in sales. But I make my goals be known. My buddies know my goals. If it's financial goal, maybe I might not tell them, hey, I'm trying to save X amount of dollars, but certain goals they know, so they can help hold me accountable too. And vice versa. They tell me their goals. So I'll be like, hey man, you say you're trying to lose 10 pounds. I just saw you got a 12 pack of cookies from Crumble. What's going on? Little things like that. So having it visible for me and then having my friend group or accountability group understand what my goals are, help me kind of stay on the straight and narrow.
I really love that, specifically about the crumble cookies. It's like, do I need that? Oh, it's so interesting because it really is. There are so many temptations, but your will has to be stronger than the temptations. And sometimes your will isn't stronger than the temptations. And sometimes you need a buddy to be like, are you sure you want to eat all of those cookies? And I've had friends do that where I call them and they're like, or I'm usually that person for friends. I'm like, you said you didn't want to eat ice cream cookie sandwiches this week. And they're like, but I want to. I'm like, cool, but what do you want more than that? And it is the reminder of temptation. This world is full of temptation, but also we are so much stronger than we think. And I'm very similar to you as well. I don't have my goals on my phone screen, but I've got a bunch of affirmations that are reminders of things that I need to remember about me as a woman. I need to remember that I am amazing before I do anything because I'm the type of person who only feels amazing at times once I accomplish things, but I'm amazing either way. So, who you want to be and become, these are cool little tools and resources that you can use to ensure that you're getting to where you want to go. So,
Absolutely.
Percy, what I want to know what happens when you're not working towards a larger goal?
I kind of mentioned it earlier, how I said if you don't hold yourself accountable, you kind of just cruise through life as a bystander. So I'm not working through a goal. There'll be times where I feel like I've accomplished my goals, everything's good, and I feel like I'm just in cruise control. No matter what it is, we can always be doing better at something. Always. Nobody's perfect. I have a long list of things I can improve on right now. So if I'm sitting here twiddling my thumbs and not, working towards the goal, I feel like I'm not living my life as I should be or doing what I need to be doing. So I don't like being in cruise control. Life is hard. Life is hard. Things are expensive. Life is tough, especially, those parents out there, you guys know, having kids, that adds an extra wrinkle into it. And so I know for me, just to make myself feel better, I need to be working towards a goal. And now as a parent, I realize, now that my kids are 4 and 3, they see what I do and they duplicate that. Sometimes I might accidentally say a curse word and they'll repeat that. It's every little thing. And so if I feel like if they see me working towards a goal and always doing something, they're going to have that same mentality in life too. And my son will sometimes say, hey, daddy, mommy's working out. Why aren't you working out? Well, okay, you're right. Let me get up off my butt and do something. So I feel like we always have to have at least one goal for sure. It should be multiple goals at all times that we're working to because no matter how good we think we are, none of us are perfect. We can always improve in every aspect of life in some way.
And there's something that you said before that I didn't highlight on that I feel like is so important to highlight on. You said that your goals are realistic and attainable. I feel like people set goals that are not realistic and they're like, I haven't worked out in 5 years. I want to work out 5 days a week. That's ludicrous. That is setting
Yeah,
yourself up for failure. It's so unlikely that you will all of a sudden be a track star if you've been a couch potato, and it's okay
yep,
wherever you're at on that spectrum. But you have to realize there's a far divide between both of those. And I think that's also the greatness of accountability and mentorship. And it's what Life Guides is birthed on as well, is the fact that we need people to help us see where we can go, how we can get there, and also to help us take those steps because we like to eat the whole pie when really it's gonna take us a slice. So that's why our guides are also here for you as well. If you're listening to this conversation and you're like, wow, I maybe need accountability in my life, but I'm not sure if I have that support system built in yet. This is my first time thinking about this. My mind is blown. There are people in life guides like Percy, who is one of our guides, who can help you build that accountability into your life and can help you ensure that not only do you say you want to go somewhere in life, but you can actually get there. Because, kids, family, laundry, cooking dinner, everything takes time and energy, and it can be very easy to forget where we want to go. So, not everyone is as strong-willed as Percy, and sometimes we just need a Percy in our back pocket to help us get to where we want to go. So,
yeah. All right, okay, Kira, real quick. One thing I
yeah.
forgot to touch on too is the accountability piece and just the village kind of combined in one. So you talked about having a goal and not working towards it. So there's married people in here. So again, I have a 4-year-old and 3-year-old, are 15 months apart, and people know how marriage can be. You tend to go through cruise control a lot when you're in marriage. Sometimes you can just going through the motions. My wife and I got guilty of that when our kids were born. So son was born, then daughter right after. It's like bam, bam, it happened. And we were just, I travel for work. My wife works 40 hours a week. She has to go into the office sometimes. So life got even more chaotic when kids came in around. And after a year, we realized like, hey, we need to, still give attention to each other, still date each other. So now we're back into going to dates often. We get lunch together. And it was little things like that. Like our marriage wasn't bad or anything, but just, over time, just, the whole foundation of a house, you remove one brick today, it'll be fine. You move another brick down the road, and eventually over time, the foundation crumbles and we don't realize it. And so we realize like, hey, we haven't been going to concerts anymore. We haven't been doing that thing. You haven't gone out with your friends anymore. And we are able to do that. I'm from North Carolina. My wife's from Ohio. We live in Atlanta. We don't have any family here, but we do have a village. We have a village that helps us. We help our village as well too. So in addition to helping us stay accountable, we can also rely on our village. And it's been, I thank everybody, friends, family, whoever it may be, because if it weren't for our village here, life would be even more chaotic than what it is. And so if you don't have a village by you, I just talk to people. You'll never be surprised at how many people are willing to help or going through the same thing as you. One thing I love about my kids' daycare is the families there. We talk to all the parents, and it's like, oh, my son's not the only one freaking out every morning, or whatever. Maybe we're all going through the same things, but now we know, okay, this parent might need help. We can pick their kid up and to come get us. Little things like that. So don't be afraid to reach out to your village because we all need help at some point. Don't be afraid to ask for help. And in the same note, be willing to help your neighbor and friend when they're in need of help as well, also.
Brene Brown has a great quote, and it's something along the lines of vulnerability is the first thing that we love to see in others. We love to hear their stories. Even in this conversation, you've heard a lot from Percy about his highs, his lows, and it's helped you form a deeper connection with him and be like, wow, this is a real man who's been through real life and has a real experience and maybe can offer real support. But the other part of that quote is that vulnerability is the first thing that we wish and like to see in others, but it's the last thing that we like to express within ourselves. So it can be very easy to watch a session like this or um, to see that other people being vulnerable, but it's also your responsibility as well. I had to learn in my life how to be vulnerable and how to ask for help, how to tell people that I'm overwhelmed. I had to learn my own bandwidth and what I do have the energy for and what I don't have the energy for. I had to tell people the way I like to be loved, the way I like to be supported, the things that I struggle with silently. And I'm really grateful to have mentors and friend groups and family who support me in those ways and that I can have those conversations with. But it does take you being vulnerable to get support, because if you're the type of person who looks like everything's good and acts like everything's good, people are going to think everything's good. And the human experience isn't good at all times, but it is a false narrative that we can put out and that people can receive. So, Percy, we have just another moment before, well, a minute or two before we start closing out. Are there any final words, anything else that's lingering in regards to today's conversation that you want to share with those who are listening today?
Yeah, I'll just say, everything's connected. So mentally, spiritually, physically, everything is connected. And I'm a firm believer that a lot of it starts with your physical well-being. So for those who are Deion Sanders, he's one of my favorite athletes of all time. He has a quote, and the quote is, "If you look good, you feel good. If you feel good, you play good. If you play good, they pay good." And what that means is, if you look good, if you're working out, if you're able to, run down the street, do whatever it may be, you'll feel good. And if you feel good, you'll play good. Play good means you'll perform, whether it's in the work, whether it's at home, whatever it may be. And at the end of the day, they pay good. Paying could be, your kids saying I love you. It could be actually money from work, whatever it may be. So I think, a lot of it starts with your physical well-being. I try to step my best to stay physically active, especially for my kids having a 4-year-old and 3-year-old. That is, my screensaver. I don't have my Ghost Bear anymore now, but I have my kids up there. I can my kids. That's my goal right there. So I know that I want to be able to go outside and play with them. Yesterday was Father's Day. I wanted to chill, but they wanted to go outside and play. But hey, I love doing that. So I went outside, sweated my butt off, and played for 3 hours. But if I weren't physically fit to be able to do that, I wouldn't be able to do that, and I would feel some kind of way about that. So I think that we need to take care of everything, our mental well being, just as strong as our physical and our spiritual, your spiritual as well too. So it's all connected. If we can keep kind of those in sync, hold ourselves accountable, look at it, refocus and shift when we need to, the world will be much a better place, and I think you'll be your best version of yourself possible.
Mic drop, bars right there. Thank you so much, Percy, for being here for today's conversation. In the back end, you all don't know, I've reached out to Percy like 7 times to see if he's available, and this time he was finally available, which I feel like out of all of the conversations that I asked him to be available for, this one is one of the more important, obviously, because men are underrepresented, undersupported, everything along those lines. So, Percy, it's been such a joy to have you here. We have the deep dive on men's well-being happening this Wednesday with Aaron and Philip. It's a 60-minute long session. It's one of our only 60-minute long sessions throughout the month. We only do 12 a year in regards to like informational sessions. So I highly suggest you join, learn. It's going to be a really great conversation. We'll be diving into some deeper topics like addiction, relationships, a lot of different layers. And then on Thursday at the same time, we also have our deep dive mentorship, which is where you'll be able to ask questions, share your face, share your voice, get live feedback and live mentorship in regards to men's well-being overall. And that could be as a woman, like how do I help a man in my life have better well-being? Or it could be as a man, how do I help myself have better well-being? So I just dropped both of those links in the chat for you. We do have Motivational Monday, the last one next week for men's well-being. And then in July, we'll be diving into spiritual well-being. There's a survey that pops up at the end. Please fill it out if you feel so inclined. It's always helpful to know where our events stand and how we're doing and any suggestions or feedback that you have for us. Happy Monday. We hope that your week is amazing and we will talk to you soon. Bye, everyone.